Chris Pratt is one of those actors who normally doesn't weigh in on politics, unlike many of his Marvel co-stars. He tends to keep his opinions to himself, but recently he kind of stepped into it a little bit when he went on Bill Maher's podcast and basically said just because you don't like the current administration doesn't necessarily mean you have to root for everything that they do to fail, because there are some things that he thinks they're doing that are actually pretty good for the country as a whole, and that people should be supportive of all that. But before we get into this, if you're new to the channel here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you can, leave a comment and hit the like button too, because it helps out with the channel. So look at this headline I have pulled up. It reads, Chris Pratt defends Trump administration and RFK Jr. Bill Maher joins in shocking agreement. And that is kind of surprising because Bill Maher is usually on the left side of the political spectrum, but he is a guy who has been known to call balls and strikes. Maybe not necessarily the most fairly, but still he will give credit where credit's due. And in this situation, he couldn't help but agree with what Chris Pratt was saying. Chris Pratt, beloved by audiences as Star-Lord in Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy films, went on Bill Maher's podcast and defended the Trump administration, earning rare public agreement from Maher himself. Appearing on Maher's Club Random podcast, Pratt rejected the idea that opposition to Trump should mean rooting for failure. He made it clear that regardless of partisan divisions, the success of an administration should be welcome if it means better outcomes for the American people. And I think, honestly, most people actually will agree with that one. Now, there are some people on both the left and the right who, if the other side's in power, then they want them to fail on everything. They would even root for the country to fail if it means making the person in office look bad. And I think Chris Pratt is saying, like, don't be like that. If it's for the betterment of the country, then you should want them to succeed, because ultimately it will make your life better, even if you don't like who's in office. I'd hate to be so mired in hatred for the president that any success from his administration is something I'd have an allergic reaction to, Pratt said in a statement that could be felt like a shockwave throughout Hollywood, where hating Trump has become a failing industry, and it is kind of becoming a failing industry, even though its people seemingly are more vocal about it now than ever. It really hasn't resonated with audiences, and the last presidential election has shown us that the endorsement of Hollywood celebrities really doesn't carry any weight. I want them all to be successful. Pratt specifically cited Trump's appointment of RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to lead the Department of Health and Human Services, married into the Kennedy family through Katherine Schwarzenegger. Pratt has a unique proximity to RFK Jr. and applauded his initiative aimed at removing terrible toxic stuff from children's food. And yeah, for people who don't know, Katherine Schwarzenegger, the daughter of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Maria Shriver. Maria Shriver, I believe she's a niece of RFK, so that makes her cousin to RFK Jr. I think that's how the family tree works out. So Chris Pratt is, I guess that would make him first cousin once removed from RFK Jr. I think that's how the family dynamic is. So him praising someone who is a distant, I guess you would say that's a distant relative of his, someone that he probably personally knows, that doesn't seem like it's so unusual, not to mention he's praising the stuff like removing toxins from food, which is honestly something that people should be in agreement with. The point was simple. If an administration is delivering on policies that improves lives, Hollywood shouldn't be allergic to admitting it, or at the very least, you shouldn't attack them. Even if you don't want to give the other side a win, you could at least not make it seem like what they're doing is a bad thing. What happened next may have been even more shocking. Bill Maher, a comedian who has built a career as a liberal critic of conservatives, not only listened but agreed with Pratt. He's not crazy, Maher said, speaking of RFK. What makes us sick is the toxicity. He later went on to note, I said to him when he was here, I do not agree with everything you said, and I don't think your father would either, but your father would be so proud that you stuck to your guns like more than anybody. I mean, this guy, this guy believes something, you cannot move him off of it with your bribes. That's for better or worse. And I do think that is something that's an admirable trait with anyone, someone who's willing to stick with their convictions, regardless of how much pressure they're getting from the outside, even if they are wrong on it. I mean, I can at least respect the person if they're not going to act hypocritically and just kowtow to pressure. Maher has recently rallied against what he calls pre-hating, the instinct to despise Trump or his allies before policies are even implemented. Here in real time, he validated Pratt's argument that reflective hate helps no one and corrodes the culture. Maher also recently attended a dinner at the White House with Trump, facilitated by Kid Rock, after which Maher offered Trump praise, much to the chagrin of the Hollywood liberal elites in the media environment where Hollywood voices overwhelmingly condemned Trump. The exchange stood out as a rare moment of common ground, an A-list Marvel star and an HBO host agreeing that civility and pragmatism matter more than political vendettas. And I think that is kind of an important thing to take away from all this, is that people should just understand that those in power, I mean, there's some of them out there looking for their own gain and looking to make the country worse off than what it currently is. But I think it is important for people to understand that a lot of the times it's not that they're trying to deliberately make your lives worse. It's just they have a different idea on like how to actually improve the state of the nation. But kind of jumping off of this though, with the idea like don't just hate someone just because or don't just disagree with someone just because you don't like some opinions, because they can be right on other things. Looking over at Bluesky, many people talking about this are not really enthused about what Chris Pratt is saying, as you can see by these comments. In Germany, we say ironically, but at least Hitler built the Autobahns. Okay, going back to anything I don't like is Hitler. Proving yet again that he really is the worst, Chris. Okay. Pratt says his skepticism about what's reported about RFK Jr. comes from his own dealing with the media, where the actor has often been attacked for his Christian views. Okay, I mean, I think that actually seems kind of like a fair takeaway from all this. Chris Pratt is someone who's been unfairly attacked, so he's not necessarily going to be jumping on board with what the media is saying. Pratt should be fired from Marvel. No more Guardians of the Galaxy for him. He can shove his Christian views. Okay. So that sounds like a really nice person. Anti-vax child kill children. Okay. RFK Jr. is not an anti-vaxxer. I mean, unless an anti-vaxxer means you're just going to inject everything anyone gives to you without question, or unless if they're a doctor and they give you something, you have to inject it. If you ask a doctor for a second opinion on anything, then you're apparently anti-doctors or something like that. You can't do that. You have to just accept everything, no questions asked. He is literally killing literally killing people. Except RFK Jr. was terrible before he joined onto the Trump train. He just wants to, I mean, Chris Pratt's not talking about all of his other policies or all of his other positions. He's just saying like, hey, he wants to remove toxins from foods and make foods more natural, kind of keeping in line with a lot of other first world countries. Many people have pointed out, it's like, oh, the food in Europe is so much better than America. And RFK Jr. saying like, yeah, let's make our food more like them. And they're like, no, you can't do that. That's terrible. You're a horrible person. We want all these toxins in our food. And that's something Chris Pratt even brought up in this interview. He says you shouldn't just habitually go against everything that they're saying just because you disagree with them on most issues, because there could be an issue that they're actually correct on. And if you find that common ground, you should be willing to actually accept that. And me personally, I don't like listening to people who are just going to be either positive or negative in one direction, because frankly, I just don't find it interesting. If you know what they're going to say ahead of time, then why do you even listen to them if you know what they're going to say? If a person's willing to actually call balls and strikes fairly, then I'm more inclined to listen to them, because then I might actually be a little bit surprised on what they have to say. But what does this mean for the overall industry, though? Because Chris Pratt's going against the social norms in Hollywood. And in all honesty, I don't think it's really going to hurt him that much, because he still is a big box office draw for the industry. And we have seen these last couple of years when a lot of celebrities try to lean hard into the left side of the political spectrum, it actually has been a detrimental effect to their box office results and also to their public image. And maybe some celebrities are still doubling and tripling down on it, but we've started to see a cultural shift this last couple of years, especially with the presidential election and Donald Trump winning. That was pretty much a referendum on Hollywood, because, as I said, many celebrities found that their political endorsements carry no weight. And I think that's kind of where we're getting at nowadays. So people don't care what celebrities have to say anymore. All they want them to do is just to perform on camera and just be entertaining, and they don't want to associate them with the political cause. Chris Pratt, he was obviously asked about this because he has a connection to RFK, and I think he gave a pretty reasonable response on this, where he's saying like, just don't hate people just because you disagree with them. Learn to actually get along with people. But Disney found that you can't fire someone for saying as much, otherwise they'll lose a lawsuit. So I don't think Disney is going to be quick to fire Chris Pratt as a result of all this. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you can, leave a comment, hit the like button, and share the video out there too, because it helps out with the channel. Thank you.